Hey guys, this is your stimulus check update, second stimulus check update, and stimulus package update for Monday, August 10th. This is a little different location than I'm normally at because I'm on vacation with my family, but I wanted to give you guys a stimulus check update this morning. So let's talk about the executive actions that Trump signed over the weekend. First off, he signed an extension of the unemployment benefits, but at $400 per week. That $400 per week will go in addition to the state's unemployment benefits that you already receive, and along with that $400 benefit, it will last until December 27th, so the end of this year. Those unemployment benefits are, like I said, $400 per week rather than the $600 per week that you were getting until the end of July. He also signed an eviction moratorium, which would also stop landlords from evicting you if you haven't been paying your rent. There aren't a ton of details on this one, but basically he also said that there would be rent assistance for renters, homeowners would receive assistance, lenders and landlords would also receive assistance. And those would actually continue for the rest of the year. So an eviction moratorium was actually signed by President Trump as well. The third thing that he signed is student loan repayment hold, basically holding off on the student loan repayments, and that student loans would not accrue interest for the rest of the year. At the end of September, the previous student loan deferment was actually canceled or will expire, and so President Trump's executive action would renew this student loan deferment, and your student loan payments would not accrue interest, and so you would have no penalty if you don't pay on your student loans until the end of the year. The next thing is the one that I think a lot of people are a little concerned about, and that's the payroll tax cut. The payroll tax cut would reduce those that make less than $104,000 per year. It would basically stop them. They wouldn't pay into their Social Security or Medicare payments for the rest of this year, and that would cut about 7.65% of their payroll taxes. So I'll talk a little bit more about the payroll tax cut and a little bit more information about that. One executive order that I think some people were wondering about is, could he sign an executive order that's actually to pay out stimulus checks to people? And the quick answer to that is no, he can't. He can't sign an executive order that would pay out $1,200 or another amount for stimulus checks. And the reason for that is the same reason why a lot of these executive orders may actually go to court. So Article 1, Section 9, Clause 7 of the U.S. Constitution says that no money shall be drawn from the Treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law. Basically, Congress is the only entity that can pass a law, between Congress and then being signed by the President, that can use funds from the Treasury. So if some of these executive actions require funds from the Treasury, which some of them do, President Trump did talk about some other ways they were going to possibly use funds, but if some of these funds come from the Treasury, then they actually would need the approval of Congress before they can be issued. So some of these executive actions are probably going to be challenged in court. But basically, if it's not signed into law by President Trump and wasn't approved by Congress, then it cannot use tax dollars. So let's talk about the payroll tax cut and talk about how, I know some of you are worried that it's going to take away Social Security or Medicare funding for the rest of the year. Well, let's talk about that. The payroll tax cut that President Trump just signed, it's actually not a tax cut, but it's a tax deferral. So all of the executive action that President Trump signed is doing is deferring those tax payments until the end of the year. So they can't collect payroll taxes. According to this executive order, the IRS won't collect payroll taxes until the end of the year. Sorry, I'm in a parking lot by the hotel right now, so there's going to be some weird noises. But the payroll tax cut that President Trump just signed, it doesn't actually cut those taxes. It only defers them till the end of the year. So during the recession, just a little backstory or a little history on the payroll tax cut. Back in 2012, during the recession, President Obama actually signed into law a bird there. Sorry guys, this is a little different than my regular videos, but President Obama signed into law that was part of a stimulus package back in 2012, a payroll tax cut that actually cut payroll taxes, just kind of similar to what President Trump is doing, but at that time it actually cut them. It didn't just defer them. So back in 2012, like I was saying, I'll just wait for that truck to go by. Since it was a law that was signed and it was approved by Congress, the payroll tax cut signed under President Obama back in 2012 actually cut Social Security and Medicare for a period of time. And that's essentially what President Trump is trying to do here, but his is only going to actually defer them, like I said a few times. It would take a law to be passed by Congress and signed by President Trump before they would actually cancel those payroll taxes. Okay, let's try this inside the car. It's going to be a little bit better, hopefully. So, for those of you that use the non-filers tool and you used it before May 17th, the IRS actually had a bug on their website or in their software that caused those that use the non-filers tool before May 17th to not receive the $500 credit for their dependent children. And so last week they started sending out payments to those that had used the non-filers tool before May 17th but never received their $500 credit for their dependent children. So if you received some money from the IRS last week and you fit in that category, that's why you received it. They started sending those back out last week, $500, if you use the non-filers tool before May 17th. I've probably said that like 4 times now, sorry. But if you use the non-filers tool after May 17th and you didn't receive money for your dependents for whatever reason, unfortunately you're going to have to wait probably until the end of the year and then file taxes at the start of next year to receive that $500 credit. But if it was before May 17th, you should be getting it. So let's talk now about the second stimulus check and the next stimulus package. Well, the talks broke down last week where the House and the Senate couldn't come to an agreement on the next stimulus package. It was mostly being held up because of the disagreements on the funding for state and local governments. The House wanted $1 trillion. The Senate didn't want anywhere near that. And the other thing that was holding it up was the unemployment extension. Well, with President Trump signing this executive action, basically renewing the unemployment extension, that one becomes kind of less of an issue. I mean, the House wanted $600. The Senate, I think, was willing to go up to $400, which is what President Trump just signed as an executive action. So that sticking point is kind of not, I don't know that it's as much of a sticking point anymore because President Trump just signed an extension of that unemployment benefit. So we'll see what happens with that. The negotiations, I've heard that they could resume talks this morning. And the reason why these negotiations are so important to most people is because they're wondering about their stimulus check. And if this package doesn't get signed, then the stimulus check isn't going to get sent out. That's the only way we're going to get a stimulus check is if they actually sign this next stimulus package into law. So negotiations should continue today. Technically, the House and the Senate are both on recess right now. The House was actually sent home before last week. Nancy Pelosi said, just go home. We're still negotiating. And if we come to a deal, then you guys can come back to Washington and vote on it. But for now, just go home. And then the Senate, I can't remember. I think Mitch McConnell may have sent a lot of the senators home after last weekend. But once again, the Senate could also come back and vote on a package if they can sign it. The question is, can they come to an agreement? They still have that big disagreement on the funding for states, and the school reopening is another one of the disagreements that they're having where the House wants to give a higher number than the Senate, and the Senate maybe, I haven't heard specifically about this for a couple days, but the Senate wanted to tie it to schools reopening. That may or may not be the case still, but I know the number was different between the House and the Senate on schools reopening. So that's kind of where we're at with the second stimulus package, and it's actually the fourth stimulus package, but the second stimulus check. This stimulus package, if it's passed, that's the $1,200 stimulus check that was part of it. That's one of the things they agree on. I don't understand why they don't just say, okay, let's just pass a stimulus check, give each, those people that we had agreed upon $1,200, and then we'll figure out the rest of it later. Like, that's the thing that's so frustrating to me. And the problem is, it's because each of them have kind of their pet projects that that's the honest truth, is they kind of have their pet projects they want to get funding for, and they know that the stimulus check is the big one that the other side wants. And so they're both just sitting there saying, well, if we pass this stimulus check on its own, then what negotiating power do we have? And they really don't have as much negotiating power if they pass a stimulus check, because then the American people aren't going to be saying, hey, where's my second stimulus check? But if they hold off on passing that second stimulus check, then they can throw in all the extra crap that I think they're throwing in. Some of it is maybe helpful, but a lot of it is just extra wasteful spending that if they were to just give to people directly, the stimulus checks would be huge. Instead of spending this money on, sending it to state and local governments, many of which already had financial problems well before the pandemic, or sending it for other things. There's definitely some good stuff. I think we probably do need more testing for coronavirus testing, especially if we're going to try and open schools, if we're going to try and open, states back up. Testing, I think, is a key to that, and getting people tested so that we know who's infected, who's not, who should be safe from getting the virus again. There's some good things that they're trying to do, but a direct payment to individuals, and if they, just get that passed, then I think most Americans would be at least a little bit happier. I know a lot of people want more than $1,200, but I just don't think that's happening at this point. Anyway, so this is your stimulus check update for Monday, August 10th. Sorry, it's a little wacky today. Like I said before, I'm on vacation, but I wanted to give you guys a quick stimulus check update. Once again, if you have questions, leave them in the comment section below. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and like this video, and I would really appreciate it. Thanks again, once again, guys, and I will talk to you again soon.